So we know the housing market has been at a standstill for the most of 2023. I mean, all the numbers are down. Sellers don't want to sell, buyers don't want to buy, but there is something about to happen that no one's talking about, that no one saw coming, that I believe can make a massive impact on the housing market in 2023. And so let's jump into this conversation. So like I said before, we know that listing inventory and new listings coming online are down 21%. That's our supply. We know that buyer demand is also way down. Mortgage applications all year have been way down. We know all of that. And it's because of mortgage interest rates. You've got buyers on the sidelines saying, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. And you have sellers on the sidelines saying, I would like to sell, but man, the thought of paying high prices and maybe doubling or tripling the interest rate that I have now is just unbearable. And the thing is this, it's not necessarily where interest rates are at. I mean, interest rates are probably around 6.25% to 6.5% at the time of me making this video, but it has to do more with the buyers and sellers not knowing what's going to happen with mortgage interest rates. That's the holding pattern that we're in. Even us in the industry, mortgage interest rates have been so up and down all year, and they've been just all over the place. And because they've been all over the place, it makes sense why buyers and sellers don't want to do anything, because it's like, well, if I wait, are they going to drop like crazy? If I wait, are they going to go up like crazy? Should I act now? And as a result, like most human beings, they do nothing. But there are some things that have recently just happened that could kick this housing market back into gear. So let's first start talking about the demand side of this equation. As we all know, the real estate housing market is a simple reflection of supply and demand. So the question is this: if buyers and sellers knew not only if mortgage rates were coming down, but that they would start to level off, they'd start to have some consistency with them, would people get off the sideline? In other words, if buyers and sellers knew that, hey, we're going to hover around this 6.5%, and that's kind of the new norm, if people had confidence in that, would they start to do something? Because again, I think the challenge is one day interest rates are at 6%, everybody gets excited. Then the next day something happens and they go back up to 6.75. Then they climb right back up to 7%. Then they're down back to 6.5%. And so people are not wanting to make a decision. But if they knew with more certainty that mortgage interest rates would, the volatility of the interest rates would calm down, would that do anything? Well, buyers and sellers now have something that they've never had before, and that is perspective. They have something now to compare to that we haven't seen over the past couple of years, and that is a world where we have mortgage interest rates not at historic lows. Most of the people in the game of buying and selling real estate, the consumer, call it for the last 4 or 5 years, all they have known is this: I put a house on the market, it sells within days with multiple offers because interest rates have been at historic lows. That's what I know. Now that we are in a shifting market, these buyers and sellers now can compare to what used to be to what we have now. And that is a very, very powerful thing for humans to have, is to have something to compare to have context, to have perspective. And so how this plays out is this. Here's what just happened to mortgage interest rates. Literally, when I'm making this video, this came out yesterday. The headline CPI inflation, aka the inflation rate, tumbled 100 basis points from the previous month. 5% from 6%. This again was lower than expected. though consensus estimates were pretty close at 5.1%. So this now makes the 9th straight month of a lower inflation rate from 40-year highs just in June, which was at 9.1%. The month-over-month drop in this metric is also the steepest we've seen in the decline so far. Well, you might say, okay, cool, Brandon. I saw the CPI report come out yesterday too. What is your point? Well, the point is this. Mortgage rates follow inflation. And if you look on screen right now, or if you're listening to this on the podcast, I'll walk you through this. On screen, I've got a graph that shows mortgage interest rates from 1971 to where we are today at about 6.5%. And you can see the purple line is inflation, and the orange line is mortgage interest rates. And as you can see, as inflation climbs, mortgage rates climb. As inflation comes back down, mortgage rates come back down. And you can see this correlation with inflation and mortgage interest rates since 1971. And so we know that mortgage rates follow inflation. Well, if inflation continues to come down, then what we should start to see is mortgage interest rates follow suit. So that's number one. The second thing I want to look at is, as a result of that, let's revisit mortgage applications. So number one, or what I should say is that in addition to mortgage application, Google searches for the term homes for sale were up 44%. We haven't seen numbers like that since last year. And so you start to ask yourself, interesting, what's going on here? You've got CPI coming down. You've got inflation coming way down. Mortgage application volume responds quickly to recent rate drop. This was a report that came out yesterday. Mortgage applications increased last week for the 5th time in 6 weeks. The Mortgage Banker Association said its market's composite index, a measure of mortgage loan applications, increased 5.3%. And this is now the 5th week in a row that this has happened. So you have more people online searching for homes. You have mortgage applications going up. You have inflation coming down. What's happening here? Well, let's continue to look at this. In addition, Realtor.com came out with another great report as well. They showed that 16.4% more people are actually viewing listings specifically on the internet than weeks prior. We also know that new listings that are priced right are back to getting multiple offers and selling extremely fast. And so this was another report from Realtor.com. The few homes that are listed are getting snatched up fast, according to Redfin. And among the homes that go under contract, nearly half are doing so within 2 weeks. That's up from just a quarter at the beginning of the year. Today's supply of homes for sale would take just 2.8 months to sell at the current home buyer consumption rate, a sharp drop from a 3-year low of 4.5 months recorded at the beginning of the year. So what does this mean? What is this saying? Well, based on the recent events, it looks like demand is making a comeback. Now, yes, we're getting back into home buying season, but you have some of these things that are happening that have more buyers getting off the sideline. There seems to be a rise in mortgage demand once again. Well, that's one side of the equation. The other side of the equation is still, well, what about supply, Brandon? Well, let's talk about it. There are also some things happening that suggest an unlocking of new inventory. If you've paid attention over the last couple of days, you would have also seen a report that just came out talking about home selling sentiment and that it has improved. The percentage of respondents who said it's a good time to sell a home increased. And that's been a long time since this has happened, from 54% to 58%. While the percentage who say it's a bad time to sell decreased from 44% to 40%. This means that the difference between those who think it's a good time versus those who think it's bad has increased by 8% compared to last month. This is all things happening in real time. This is all unfolding right now. This may encourage more home buyers or homeowners rather to put their houses on the market, leading to an increased inventory. This is just as of last month. Furthermore, when we look at new construction, so we looked at existing homeowners, what about new construction that's kind of been on the sideline too? Well, good news. Permits, this was a recent report from Realtor.com. Permits rose 13.8% from January, driven by a 7.6% increase in single-family units. At the same time, permits were 17.9% below last year's number, which we know. Meanwhile, housing starts also increased 9.8% from the prior month to 1.45 million annualized units. This is additional inventory coming online. However, that's not the main thing here. The main thing here is, when you look at the report, is completed homes. These are homes ready for sale. This also increased 12.2% from January. And so you have more and more new construction that is getting ready to hit the market. So you've got home sellers that are potentially getting off the sideline. You've got buyer demand coming back. You have more new construction getting ready to hit the market. Things can start to unlock a bit. And this was the best of all. Realtor.com came out with a report that I think would be very, very useful to real estate agents and mortgage professionals, because I think we get asked all the time, when is the best time to sell? Well, a great report just came out from Realtor.com talking about that very thing. That the week of April 16th through April 22nd is indeed the best time to sell. And so here were the stats. The stats were this, that people were getting a higher asking price. In fact, $48,000 more in asking price historically. That 9.3% fewer sellers on the market than any other average week. That homes on the market during this week sold 18% faster, and that during this week, as buyer demand increases 16.4%, more buyers looking to purchase a home. So they have less competition, much more demand. We could see a major influx of new listings hitting the market, and the real estate market, quite frankly, start to really pick back up. And so it's going to be super interesting, because if you sell real estate, you know how frustrating the Q1 of 2023, you know how frustrating that has been, because nobody wants to do anything. Well, I think things are about to change. I am curious, however, to get your thoughts. Are you starting to see things in your market heat back up? Are you starting to see new listings that are in great condition, that are priced right? Are you starting to see those sell quickly, sometimes even back in multiple offer situations? Let me know what market you're in the comments below. And listen, I'm not naive. I know that there are some markets that have been hit very, very hard. I know that some markets are at a standstill. I know that some markets, home prices have declined massively. But across the country, home prices have stayed flat. And I think we're about to see this market pick right back up.